Good evening. Carrie, aim low. No, it's easy top. No sad. Rosanna. Georgia.
We started without you, the Bigfoot hunt.
Carolina.
Sorry, I had to feed this guy.
Chicago. We got a hoser from Canada.
What work do we do other than YouTube? Well, Small Arm Solutions has always been here. It's been here for about 9 years now. We used to predominantly do a lot of consulting with gun manufacturers all over and their needs. Chris wrote a lot of armors manuals, and we did a lot of armor schools, and that was our regular rotation. After YouTube, we don't do armor schools as much anymore, but Chris still does write armors manuals and does consulting work.
You have a guy in Cypress, somebody from Cypress, Texas. Upstate New York, back behind the lines. You don't like my Canadian accent, you knob?
Okay, as you guys are entering, please remember to like the chat. It does help us out and gets it more visible. And
California, behind the lines.
It's an easy way to support the channel, just thumbsing up video and any videos that we do, actually. We're going to get started. If you guys would like to donate tonight, you can hit the $sign underneath the Say Something line and do Super Chat. Your question will be get priority over all the other ones coming in. Google does take 30%, which is a lot. So our preferred method is DonorBox. That link is on smallarmsolutions.com. But we also, I will pop it into the chat line right now. You can attach your comment or question to the notes section of the donation, and my phone's right here. I'll get an email and it'll be the same thing, and they only take 5%. So, but either way, thank you for joining us. We don't just take paid questions, but of course that's what keeps us alive and keeps us going. And donations have been historically low. I know everybody's suffering right now during COVID, and our channel definitely is, as we are growing and getting better and expanding and adding new things. Definitely your donations help us out and keep us going, because we do not take sponsorships. In fact, after the Q&A last week, I didn't even tell you this, Chris, I got an email saying, I saw your live chat, and they wanted to pay us to do, it wasn't Olight. I don't remember if it was a light or a grip. It was something. And I said, not interested.
Tell them hosers to take off, eh?
We don't take checks for videos. Mark on DonorBox, thank you so much, Mark. Does it hurt firearms to be stored year-round in a dry attic with extremes of heat and cold? And what about ammunition?
Well, ammunition, its enemy is mostly going to be humidity, and same with the firearms. I would not recommend storing firearms in any place unless it's dry and cool. As I said, especially if you have expensive ones. I had a friend of mine who stored his up in an attic in New York, and it was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months. He went back to get it, and the whole side was rusted. So I really would not recommend putting that stuff dry, cool. Dry, cool should be where you want to store it.
Dustin on DonorBox, thank you, Dustin. What do most of the current DMRs have? Why do most of the current DMRs have 18-inch barrels as opposed to 20?
Well, that's actually a very good question, because there was a very simple reason. any further, you're wasting barrel length. If you go back in time, when you would have to have the 20 to 22 inch, 24 inch, 26-inch barrels, you're looking at propellants that's how long it would generally take for it to burn to get its maximum speed. Modern propellants within 18 inches, you burn up all your propellant, you're going to go as fast as you're going to go. So that is the ideal barrel length for a 308 with modern ammunition. That's why you see a lot of 18 inches. There's not much point going beyond that once you have with modern propellants.
Adnan on Donor Box, thank you so much, Adnan. Regarding the under barrel grenade launchers that's currently produced for the U.S. military by LMT, did Carl Lewis invent the concept, or are his designs of the LMT grenade launchers more of an improved version over the older original designs?
Well, Carl Lewis is it's basically the exact same thing. The only thing he's done is he's extended it maybe an inch or so. I forget what the exact length is. It actually opens up a little bit longer, so you can get some longer rounds into it. But what he has is a standard M203. His M2003 03 M2003 203. Basically, he just took a change to the mount so he could mount it directly onto a rail. But the launchers is the same as it's been forever. I mean, he has better manufacturing techniques than they did back then. But the only real difference he's ever done is make it so it could open up just a little bit longer.
I purchased a 2018 Colt 6920 in 2019. The upper had no C mark and no cage codes, still M4 marked and T marks engraved and filled with paint. Would this have been a Colt manufacturer?
No, anything that would be quote mil spec would have to have the either the cage code or the C. So basically, what you have are commercial parts. They're not ones that would be used for a military contract, which is really the difference we're talking about here, which is what made Colt special compared to everybody else that was out there, was the fact that they did use military spec parts, and that's what you paid for, was that quality and all that. That's the difference.
Since you're in Texas and Hodge is in Texas, will you be reviewing an HDSI Mod 1, Mod 1.5, or Mod 2?
I had contacted them when I did my the series on buying ARs on a budget. Never got back to me. So I have tried. We have, excuse me, we have NRA coming up here in September, and we're going to be seeing all these people. So a lot of these companies that I've had difficulty getting on the phone with, I'm hoping to be able to make some contacts to get some more guns here for review.
Hey, Adnan, I hope you heard the question or the answers to your questions. If not, when the chat's done, you'll have to rewind to the beginning because he did answer your question. Hopefully you were in here. I just want to make sure. Please do a video on the KAC PDW. I finally shot one and I fell in love.
Which KCPW are you referring to? You're referring to the subcaliber, or just one of their 5.56s? Because they're subcaliber, they've never produced them. I'm sure they do manufacture some small Mark 18 type guns, but for as far as the original PDW that they did, that really neat design, they never produced it.
Is the Voltar A5 always an upgrade over the regular carbine buffer?
Sure, there's times where it's not necessary, but yeah, it's always an upgrade. Absolutely.
Will the military pick the 6.8?
We don't know. As I said, they talk about wanting to change. It costs an awful lot of money to do a major change like this, where you're going to be having to redo everything, all your logistics, all your spare parts, all your training, and of course, buying enough weapons to equip the entire U.S. military. Even if they did do it, you're looking at years. But the M4 is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Who makes a better AR, Knights or LMT?
They both have very similar quality. The difference is what you're going to get with LMT is you're going to get a weapon that's going to be able to do many things rather than just one. For years, LMT made parts for Knights. I don't know how much they do anymore, but the companies that work very closely together. So they're both, top tier. There's no question.
Is a Gen 3 4 Glock better to use in a... Never mind. Are the U.S. marked recoil pads with the flaming bomb logo really a U.S. military item on M4s?
I have never seen them as a government issue. Those really, I saw them coming out probably during the 80s. I never actually can say I've seen one on a military rifle. Never.
Should I buy an AK or a Galil Ace?
Well, interesting you say that. We just filmed a video. It'll probably be the next one out. It's going to be a review on the Galil Ace Gen 2, where we go over the original Galil, the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. And I go on there and I say that I think the Galil Aces are the Cadillacs of AKs. They are much more modernized. I think they're a much better, more modern rifle. Quite frankly, if I had to pick between the two, I probably would go with the Galil Ace.
And that segues in perfectly to the current filming situation. We are filming a lot. I know that, you know, there hasn't been a video out, or not as many out as there, I guess there should be, compared to a
I'm giving her big
standard channel. But generally, you know, 10 to 15 minutes, I feel like, is what most of the channels put out in video terms. And Chris likes to give me documentary length videos. And yeah, I spent about 10 hours editing yesterday to get videos out to you guys, because everything he's giving me is between 30 and 40 minutes long. So I was literally begging. I was like, please, can you give me some short ones so I can, you know, start to get some regular, consistent stuff up. Yeah, it's not always successful, but we have 5 filmed so far. So you will be seeing, I think the Galil Ace is the one that's going to go up next. I actually really liked that one.
It was very well done. You see a lot of the changes that we've done here. I think the cameras, the steel targets, you see all that coming together.
There's 3 different segments of shooting in that video. The first one doesn't have the range camera in it, but if you watch through the entirety, the other two guns, you will see the range camera being used, and you'll see a side by side. So as he's shooting, you'll see that actually as it's dinging off the target. And one of them was really nice too, because he had just sprayed it white, and so you got to really see where it was hitting and where it was going. So it's a really good addition to the channel. I think you guys are really going to like it. But yeah, please bear with me while he gives me documentary length videos. I was editing for 10 hours yesterday. Best offset iron sights, or go with offset red dot?
Well, I don't normally use them, but the ones I've been using were the Magpul. There's another set that's out there that I have just requested. Again, I'll wait till I take a look at them before I give any recommendations, but I can tell you I will recommend the Magpul M-Bus.
Abram,
Pro.
I'm sorry, did you finish?
M-Bus Pro.
Abram on DonorBox, thank you so much, Abram. He says, love the channel, especially the crime series, and the Q&As are the highlight of his week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
His question is about iron sights on the BRN 180. Brownells is selling the BRN 180 upper with micro HK sights. The site says Troy Industry sights used by HK on MR 5.56 rifles. Great fit for any rifle or pistol platform that has a higher Picatinny height than an AR-15, such as a BRN 180, end quote. Will standard height iron sights work, or does the BRN 180 need shorter sights?
Your standard size will work just fine.
Okay, standard sights. And if any of you guys like to support the channel, you can actually use any banner link on smallarmsolutions.com and click on that, like any Brownells link. And if you click through that and make your purchases, Sass gets 3%. And that's a great way to help support the channel without actually having to physically donate any dollars. John on DonorBox, thank you, John. Do piston-operated AR-15s like the LMT and the SIG 516 have a provision for a gas vent to allow excess pressure to escape? I noticed some of the new HK416s have vented gas blocks.
Oh, the HK416, its gas is vented in the front. There's a valve in the front which lets it out. These all have gas relief holes in the gas tubes themselves, where it releases the gas. You have to depressurize the system somehow. So yes, they all will have some type. Again, HK416 is going to vent it forward. The LMTs are going to mount it down. And some of them are just going to open up, and you're going to have radials that go all the way around. There's lots of different ways that venting is done.
Adam on DonorBox, thank you, Adam. Looking for a Colt AR-15A2 government bottle, but they're rare and over $2,500 when they pop up. Think maybe Colt CZ will bring these back. Any other company make a good A2 AR-15?
I have absolutely no idea what CZ's doing with Colt. I haven't seen any changes so far. So hopefully they're going to do something. Now, it's interesting that you're talking about that. I just had a conversation with Mark Eliason over at Wyndham Weaponry over the last couple of days, and we were talking about them introducing a M16A2 variation. And he says it's something that they're looking into doing. And if they do it, it's going to be done right. It's going to be high quality. It's going to be done right. So that's one of them. Unfortunately, there's been such little interest in, going back to iron sights that very few companies are doing it. And some of the ones that are doing it, they're not that great at quality. But I do expect, Wyndham Weaponry to be Wyndham Weaponry to be introducing one. Another one I think out there was it Franklin? Maybe there was one other company that was doing it. DPMS did it, but of course there's no news about them. Bushmaster's coming back online. They were introducing carbines that had the A2 upper receivers, but right now we don't know what their product lines can be. They don't have a couple of rifles up as now.
Barrel twist rate make a difference for 300 Blackout. I've heard. Stick with 1 in 7, but SIG's MCX Rattler and Q's Honey Badger has a 1 in 5 twist rate.
The problems with the Blackout barrels is a very slippery slope, because they want to make one barrel twist that will work with extremely heavy 220 grain bullets, subsonic, and then work with 125 grain supersonic. In the normal world, if you want to stabilize a 125 grain 30 caliber bullet, you'd be looking at a 1 in 10 and a half. But due to the fact that they want to stabilize the 220 grains, is why you have to have that much faster 1 in 7 or 1 in 5. The problem is when you're trying to use the 125 grain, you are overstabilizing the bullet, and that will cause some accuracy issues. However, if you're firing the supersonic or the subsonic, they work great. That's the main issue that you deal with, with that. Now, for as far as the 1 in 7 and a 1 in 5, especially a 1 in 5, the 1 in 5 is probably designed for subsonic ammunition. Myself, mine is an SBR, and I have suppressors. For the most part, if I shoot a 300 Blackout, I'm doing subsonic because that's really where this gun shines, is being fired subsonic. But yeah, it's a little bit complex. I personally would love to see somebody come out with a 1 in 10 half inch barrel that's designed for a 300 Blackout, which will be firing just supersonic.
Tad on DonorBox, thank you, Tad. He says, question is about the Colt M4 Trooper. It was at a local gun shop, and on the racks of ARs for sale, they had 2 of these Colt AR-15s that had Centurion Arms M-Lock parts on, and M4 Trooper is the closest match to it. Is the M4 Trooper a good Colt rifle or a bad Colt rifle? I would have finally bought my first AR if I didn't have to. Oh, he had to have dental surgery yesterday. I'm sure that was expensive. He'll have to wait till September. I feel you on that.
Well, quite frankly, I was pleased with that. If this is the one that I'm thinking of, it was one with the mid-length gas system. I'd done a video on one way back, and at that time, that rifle was accurate. It was very well made. The parts were subcontracted out, but the one thing that Colt did, if I recall, it was giving it a mid-length gas system, which is the first time Colt's ever done that on a commercial basis. I'm sure these guns are fine. As I said, what I talk about with them not being, quote, true Colts is they're not TDP guns. These are not the parts that were used for the U.S. government. It's parts, instead of being made in-house, that are made out. And not that that's bad. What that is but if me and you were to buy a Colt over anything else, what were the reasons we would pay for that Hartford Horsey on the side? And that was to have all those parts made in-house, and then be the same parts they would use for the U.S. government. That's really what's changed. I'm quite a purist when it comes to that.
Charles on DonorBox, thank you, Charles. He said, looking forward to BR3. Keep up the good work. His question is, I know you often mention sticking with standard carbine buffer weights and springs with a 16-inch or greater standard AR platform. However, I'm curious what would be the downside of going with heavier buffers and springs, assuming full auto fire wasn't a consideration. Well,
first off, the times when you would have to use a heavier buffer in a 16-inch barrel would be if it was very much overgassed. And unfortunately, due to the fact that you have such a wide variety of ammunition with gas port pressures and chamber pressures, from the 223 Remington to the 5.56 and to the cheaper like stuff like the Wolf, They have to open up that gas port so it will work with everything. The problem is when you open up that gas port so it'll work with that lower powered ammunition, when you go to put it with the 5.56 NATO ammunition, now all of a sudden it's overgassed. So sometimes you may need to put a heavier buffer in there to slow everything down. So you're not increasing your cyclic rate, you're giving the action more time. Now, by adding too much weight, you're going to be causing on the short stroke. You will cause failures to feed, and you will have problems with well, again, short stroke is your main thing. It's not going to have enough pressure to knock everything back. You may not lock back on the last shot. You may end up getting bolt over base. You don't want to put any more weight on the buffer than you absolutely have to. You don't use a buffer to control recoil. It's done to control gas to balance the system.
Thank you, Gary. He wants you to know that he is planning a camping trip to Willow Creek in September to look for Bigfoot.
Oh.
He said it's at Tish Tang Campground, and he's going to keep you posted.
Please do. Please do. I'd love to do that.
Is the Colt 6920 available to civilians for about $1,000 worth it? Or is it worth it? Or should I go for a Vistava Z-PAP and M90 and 5.56?
Those are two totally different animals. Now, for $1,000, and I heard $1,000, the 6920 is a great deal. It's no more or less than most manufacturers' guns. You're not overpaying for the price. You know, the Z-PAP, you know, it's an AK-based design. You're not going to have the modularity. If you're only buying one between the two, I probably would go with the 6920 because you have the ability to put all your accessories on that. You have much more precision accuracy than you will with a Z-PAP. You know, the Z-PAP is, you know, if you like the AK platform, the original AK platform, it's a premium example of that. But if you're looking for just one rifle to do anything, for $1,000, it's a good price for 6920. That's probably the way I would go.
Have you heard anything about CZ changing Colt yet? I would think Colt would be catering to the commercial market again by now.
They left the existing management in place. So until we hear about a change in management, don't expect anything. You don't keep the same people in charge, you're taking it down.
Will the M4 be the U.S. service rifle in 15 years?
I still think you'll see it in service in 15 years. Say they were, fiscal year 2022, they started procurement of a new weapons platform. The amount of time that it would take to equip military, you figure first they're going to do combat zones or combat areas outside of the U.S. Then you're going to have any base outside of the U.S. where they could be in danger. Then they're going to get to the big maneuver units here in the States, and it's got to trickle down to the National Guard and the reserves. So I do believe wholeheartedly that you'll still see the M4 in 15 years.
Matthew on Donor Box, I have a few Beretta M9 questions for you. Okay, we'll try to get one of them because we can't answer 5 questions because you look like you have about 5 questions here in one. What year did the U.S. military start to use the new M9 slide with its new oversized hammer pin? Was the program to convert existing M9 slides to use the new hammer pin, or was the old slide replaced with a new one? If there was a conversion program, any idea how long it was active in the military? You sound like you want a video.
We already have one that tells you all that, but just to say, it probably was around 1996, 97, 86 or 87 when they had the first slide failures. And then it was changed. The guns were modified. They did not give them new slides. They had a machine that went into armories and it cut the groove on the slide. They swapped out the hammer pin, and then they swapped out the left handguard or left grip on it. That's what was done, and they did that with all the existing ones that they had that were purchased before the change, and all the ones that were procured afterwards were made that way.
What do you think of the Polymer AR-15 lowers, such as Kaiser US, for example?
Well, the one I have most experience with is the American Tactical Omni, because I was involved with a lot of that. And that particular low receiver, I don't see any difference in quality or longevity or reliability than I do with any aluminum one. That plastic is extremely strong and extremely thick. I've got one here that's probably got 20 or 30,000 rounds through it, because I've done a lot of testing for American Tactical over the years. Now the other ones I haven't had my hands on yet. The one that the was used on the What Would Stoner Do. I've had a request in with Brownells for quite some time, and they just haven't had them to send us. So I'm only going to tell you about the ones I have experience with. Some of the earlier ones, the Frontiers, those things were known to break. The early American Tactical ones were known to break. It was the Omni, the new hybrid series, which is the one that is excellent.
I'm thinking of getting a 350 Legend. What do you think?
I was playing with it. I did one video on it. It was a Rock River Arms. I liked it. You know, if I was a hunter, I think that would be an excellent small to medium game cartridge. You got to be really careful with the ammunition because there's the best cartridge probably they make for it won't feed. It was a Winchester cartridge with a black polymer tip. That one would not feed, just the way that the angles were when it would feed in there. The other ones that was excellent. Ballistics were impressive, especially when you live in states that will only let you hunt with straight wall cartridges. There are several companies that do make it. I think it's a pretty neat caliber if you're a hunter. I mean, if you weren't a hunter, I wouldn't see any use for it. But for those, that's what it was designed for. It will be excellent for that.
What are your thoughts on Meridian Defense AKs? I'm thinking of picking one up.
Not had a chance to get my hands on one yet. So unfortunately, I can't really offer anything on that.
Do you consider BCM rifles to be service grade?
You know, I have been trying to get rifles from BCM for the last 3 years. The last time I tried was about a month ago. And Paul said that because they're so backlogged, they're not interested in any marketing. So I did review them about 5 years ago. The rifle that I had, I had limited experience with it. It was good. I was hoping to get my hands on a newer one to do a lot more with. I haven't been able to. They haven't been necessarily as cooperative with me on me getting them. So I wish I could give you more of an answer. I've tried to get more of an answer. I wanted to do some more reviewing and some more testing, but unfortunately, the company hasn't been cooperative.
Have you reviewed a Benelli MR1?
No, just the M4.
Have you gotten your hands on a new SIG M400 Tread Switchblade? What are your thoughts on it?
On order. It's on order, and they haven't really given me a time frame yet. But the day that they announced it, to media here, I put in my request for one. So you will be seeing a video as soon as they get it to me.
Any thoughts on the HS Product VHS-2 bullpup rifle? I saw some document floating around suggesting that Springfield Armory will be importing it into the U.S.
I would love that. I saw the weapon in Croatia. I was in Croatia. I was there a few times, but the last time I was there, the company was at the trade show I was at, and I got to sit down and talk to them about it. It was funny because at the booth they had one of those rifles sitting in a tank that was full of water, and they were saying it was in there for months or whatever and it hadn't rusted yet. I would love to see Springfield do that. This rifle's been out for quite some time. The thing is, it's not just a matter of importing them. They have to go through ATF. You have to find out how many parts on there have to be U.S. made so they can assemble them. You have to set up the assembly here. So it's not as easy just bringing them in because there's certain things that are, the barrel pretty much have to be made here unless you brought it. You can't really bring that in as a pistol because it's a bullpup. So you literally are going to have to import it and build some of the major components here. I would love to see them do it. It's a really nice looking gun.
I have a Velmet that a movie studio butchered. Needs a new rear trunnion, the barrel cut and down, and a new gas block. Any suggestions?
No way. They have not imported those since before the 1994 assault weapon ban. It was the Bush era importation ban. I don't know where you would find any kind of parts for that. You'd have to get somebody who could get those overseas and import them in. That's really the only way. And in fact, that model, they may not even make that particular model anymore either. That's horrible that somebody hacked up a rifle like that. That's pretty sad. But I wish I could give you some better information on that. But you're looking at something that they stopped importing in the 80s.
Would a 9mm revolver with polygonal rifling confuse forensics labs? He says he swears he's not planning anything. I hope not.
No, because if a gun came in, and 9mm came in with a polygonal barrel, the first thing that's going to happen is we're gonna identify it. Then we're going to put out a memorandum to every firearm examiner in the world that there's a new weapon out there. It's a revolver that has a polygonal rifling, and plus we would know that it was a revolver because we have ways of telling if the gun came out, if the bullet came out of a revolver or an automatic. So no, you wouldn't. It would alert them to that there's something new. They'd know that it was a revolver by looking at certain characteristics. And when I've seen things that were new when I was in forensics, I did an article for our AFTI journal to let people know what it was. So no.
AFTI is American Tool Arms
Forensics. It's the Association of Firearms Mark Examiners.
There you go.
So no, that would
not everybody knows what AFTI is.
We would find out what it was, and it would be put around because, like I says, there's a lot of things. There's different. You can differentiate bullets from revolvers to automatics very easily.
That was the one thing that going into the crime lab, especially the one in Milwaukee. The one in Milwaukee was extremely impressive. They had a really nice crime lab. You literally felt like you were stepping onto a movie set, and it's in the most horrible area of Milwaukee, which is even more ironic. And there's no name on the building; it's just a number, and so you don't even know that it's a crime lab. And you go into these different sections, and the drug room would have just piles. You could walk in on any day and just like piles of cocaine or
it was a beautiful
bags and bags of weed. And it was incredible. Every time we had family that would come in to visit, we would always bring them in for a tour. And I probably did the tour at least a dozen times, and it was always amazing every single time that, that crime, the room with the guns. I can't.
Yeah. The vault.
The vault. Thank you. Massive. It was like it's like the size of your living room. It was so big. Chris could literally have drug his desk in there and just worked in the vault because he loved it so much. I think, eventually when we do move and have more space, I wouldn't be surprised if that's recreated in our home in some way. I know somebody was asking last week about, different, tech ways of, storing guns in your home. That's not just a metal safe. And I was like, that's literally what I was thinking of. I could see Chris with his own vault.
Well, I'll tell you, when I left Milwaukee to go back to New York, back home, and went to that lab, trying to think of lifestyles of the rich and shameless, or rich and famous, compared to going to the ghetto. Well, lifestyles of the rich and famous was the Milwaukee lab. The ghetto was the Monroe County lab. So there is an extreme downgrade in laboratories that I went to.
I remember walking into that one the first time, and he moved there because he wanted to be close to his family again. And I just remember walking in and then looking at him, and I just said, because my mother raised me right, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. I just looked at him and said, as long as you're happy. Because it was bad. I mean, like, computers didn't work. The backlog was insane. They didn't have the technology. It was just really horrible.
They got a new lab after I left, but like I said, I went from a beautiful lab to a real shithole.
Simon says Milwaukee sounds like a really dirty and depressing place. Well, I don't want to insult any, Milwaukee people or Wisconsin in general. I mean, we lived there for 5 years, and it's a different, like any place you live, it's a different culture. It's in Milwaukee in the Midwest in general is extremely different. He's raised as a New Yorker. That's a whole different culture. I'm raised as a Southern woman. That's a whole different culture. And Midwest was a different culture for us. I will say being 45 minutes away from Chicago was absolutely amazing. And we loved that.
That was important.
But, I drink a beer. He likes beer, but, not necessarily at 7 o'clock in the morning when I'm heading into work. Do I want to smell, yeast being pumped out on the highways?
It was brutal.
It's a very different.
It's funny. I go past Budweiser here all the time, and I've never had that smell. I don't know what it was about that Miller Brewing company in
well, they
Wisconsin.
had several brewing companies,
but
too.
we drive right past a couple. There's a couple of Budweiser places here, and I've never smelled a thing.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was very heavy yeast that you would smell early in the mornings, and it just I couldn't deal.
It was brutal.
And so a combination of yeast, sauerkraut, knockwurst, and cheese. That's kind of how I sum up Milwaukee. And he used to be so annoyed. My mother used to come and buy cheese at the grocery store. It's like, you can get that anywhere. but that's what they were known for. But it's good to sample all different things in life. And we lived in the Midwest, and we have no interest in moving to the Midwest. Just watched your SR-15. What would be your current top 3 AR-15s?
Well, I definitely would say LMT. I probably would put LWRC in there as well. Yeah, Knights certainly up there too, but it's more of a boutique. It's a lot of they're priced away from what people can really get them for. I do like Caracal. That's a top, but it's really hard because I guess it depends on what you want it for and what you want to do with it is really how you tell that. And it's very specific what you would want for a specific need.
The consensus is because Budweiser is not real beer and Milwaukee's making real beer. But you know what? I beg to differ. I mean, Texas puts out some of the best IPAs, and we have
Lone Star.
Lone Pint Brewery is actually my favorite. Any Texans in here, IPA, they kill an IPA. And so, like, even people like Sean who's saying I'm not a fan of beer, like Captain Morgan or Jack Daniels, these IPAs are so amazing. They have one that's done with Kraken whiskey, and they age it in the barrels from Kraken whiskey. So it's like a whole different flavor profile. Okay, now we're descending into beer. Sorry. I just need somebody to bring a Whataburger, and then we'll be all set.
And nothing will be talking about guns anymore.
Which Glock would you buy for home protection? A Glock 17 MOS or a 45 MOS?
Well, if it was just me, well, quite frankly, the gun that I have is a G45. I probably would go with a G17 with what I do have for my wife when I'm not around. She has a Glock 17 with a light laser combo on it. So all she's got to do is hit the button. The light comes on so she can identify her target, and the laser so she can fire off in an awful hurry. If it was say it was me, I'd have to worry about her or anybody else using it. I probably would end up with a 45, probably something like my FedEx or something along those lines. But she has small hands; she's not going to handle a 45 very well. So that Glock 17 works just fine for that. But for her, I probably end up having to get her a P320. She likes a P320 a lot better.
No, I don't.
The SIG?
Is that the small one or the big one?
Big one.
I like the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like those little sissy girly pistols. He always tries to give me the little baby ones. Like, here, you're a girl. You can use this and try. I'm like, I don't like that one.
She used an M18 for her CHL class.
I really was fortunate during that. He literally had like so many guns for me to test fire. Made me go to the range before the class. Was like, you will not embarrass me. What would you recommend? An ACOG with an RMR or an EOTech with a magnifier?
I like the ACOGs myself. I just do. Always have. They're both expensive. But those the ACOGs are bomb proof.
James on DonorBox would like to know if you are available for consulting work. Would love to hire him before filling out my collection with a bulk purchase. Absolutely, James. After the Q&A is over, I'll send you an email and let you know generally how that works.
Did he say bolt action?
No, bulk purchase.
Oh, I was going to say, he said bolt action. Bolt action, I'm not your guy.
No. He said bulk purchase. He's filling out his collection.
Okay.
Yes, Chris does do consulting for everyone. That is something that he does. And sometimes you guys just want him on a phone call for 15 minutes. We do offer that for a consulting fee price. And generally I can get you scheduled within the next couple days, and you have your time slot, and it's a great way to ask whatever questions you have or hammer down on different issues. What modern pistol platform would you like in 7.62 by 25?
Funny, but an HK USP. HK USP because of the recoil reduction mechanism. It's a pretty potent caliber. Something that would be able to take the recoil, and it would be reliable, durable, and would hold up to that. An extra mechanical recoil would be very useful to have that recoil reduction mechanism. It's probably crazy to say because people are starting to say that the USP is outdated compared to the HK 45 and some of the other ones. I still love the USP 45, USP 45.
Somebody wants to know what a quote bulk purchase is. Is that like 20 guns or more? I mean, I don't necessarily think that he's talking 20 guns. I mean, he could, but it sounds like he is in the market for a few guns. He's looking to balance out his collection and wants to know, the ones that Chris recommends. And I have yet to see anyone that has come back and said you have recommended a gun that they've hated.
That's because I listen to you and find out what you want.
Is there a muzzle brake with minimum concussion for 5.56 16-inch rifle that's unable to use a flash hider?
Well, quite frankly, I don't use muzzle brakes on them because I live free here in Texas. Basically, what I would do if I was you, I would go on Brownells and I would take a look. If you have to have a muzzle brake, there are ones that are specifically designed for that, so you can keep your regular look so that they actually look like flash hiders, but they're not. I would go through and take a look. I don't use them because you don't need a muzzle brake on a 5.56. It's not a gun that needs it. 308 maybe. In the 308s, you have the ones that are put out like the one that's done by primary weapon systems. They had put a very good one out. This one that the OEM that's used for the FN rifles. They make them for the AR-15, 1/2x28, as well as the one for the 308.
There you go, Chris. This one's for you.
I see that.
He doesn't like it when y'all compliment me.
Oh God, I do too.
He's like, oh God, you don't know what it's like living and working with her. It's hard. I'm going to tell you right now, I would never recommend to anybody to live and work with her spouse.
You get outtakes of me. You don't get the outtakes of her.
Yeah.
Her yelling at me.
Well,
We've been doing this for 3 years and you still can't get that stuff right.
Well, like, when he's reading off the paper, that it drives me insane. Or when he doesn't hold the gun flush to the camera so that you can see it right. He looks at the gun and he'll be talking about something and I'll be like, you need to hold it flush to the camera.
It's unnatural talking to a camera. It's very unnatural.
And then a lot of times he won't look at the camera.
The last phrase that I do, if you join us, please click like, please subscribe, even better, share. I've been using that for years, and there's times I just flub and flub and flub.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
you've been doing this for 3 years.
He'll do it like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Or I was editing a video. I think this was Galil too. So you guys are gonna have to look when Galil goes up because I'm gonna put that up Saturday morning, probably around 11 a.m. Central Time. He looks so miserable when he says welcome to Small Arms Solutions, and I was like, can you smile just tiny bits? You look like somebody is literally holding a gun to your head and saying you will make this video when it's not the case. But he literally looks miserable, and I swear he loves this stuff.
It's unnatural, trying talking to a camera, not talking to a person.
Well, you're talking to me.
No, you're looking at your face. So she's not even looking and keeping eye contact with me.
See, he's totally selling me out down the river right now. That's not even true. A lot of times I am taking pictures of you filming and I'm posting it on
Facebook,
Instagram, and I'm responding to things. I am marketing while I'm on Small Arms Solutions Facebook.
Mm-hmm. She's marketing it to the Kardashians.
I'm sorry. After like an hour and a half of filming, I do start to like hit a wall where I'm like, I can't. Especially when he's like struggling and he's on the struggle bus of filming, because there are days when literally he cannot think, he cannot form a sentence, and I just want to start throwing things at him.
Marketing of the Real Housewives of Las Vegas.
That doesn't even exist.
Well,
That's
well,
not
well,
even a real
somewhere,
show. See, you don't even know because it's not even a real show. Okay. Welcome to our therapy session. The Sass therapy session. Mike wants to know on Donor Box. Thank you, Mike. Truckloads of 5.56, 8.55 green tip at comparatively low prices. Thoughts on using for plinking on an extended basis?
You know, I'm not a fan of M855. It would not be one of my. If I had a choice between buying M855 and some Black Hills 55 grain full metal jacket, I'd buy the 55 grain full metal jacket. I'm not a fan of M855. I like to try to get some good groups and whatnot. I like to use my steel targets. It's just not a good round. But if you can get it at a cheap price, go for it. You know, I was very lucky that the guys over at Copper Customs are helping me out with getting 9mm ammunition, because I was almost at a standstill because I had no 9mm ammunition left. And they're getting this stuff in from Turkey, Oskarsan, and it's really good ammo. If you guys need 9mm ammunition, you got to check those guys out. They're bringing like 1 million rounds in a month. It's pretty cheap, but you know, I've had a hard time. I actually called a couple distributors today about trying to get some more 9mm, and it's tough. You're starting to see more of the 5.56 coming back around, some more of the 7.62 by 39. You know, you're starting to see some of the stuff show up, but 9mm and 45 are two of the hardest ones still.
Carrie says the Sass marriage counseling show. You know, I'm going to get reamed too later in the comment section. I'm just going to wait for it later. This was more commentary than questions being asked and answered.
Some people like it and some don't.
The Real Housewives of Texas, they actually have a Real Housewives of Dallas. So
I'm just waiting for the Real Housewives of Saudi Arabia or something like that, where they're all wearing burqas and everything.
They do. I think it's Real Housewives of Jordan. No, Abu Dhabi, maybe.
Here, I thought I had an original idea.
No. He tried to say something another day about Real Housewives of India, but they are actually already have one. That's a fun fact that none of you guys care about. And I'm not sure what he's trying to say. 07 FFL, getting my SOT. I want to make my first post sample. What do I need to consider different? Auto versus semi. Any tips or parts you recommend?
Well, once you got your SOT, you know, you have the freedom to make machine guns. ARs, you have the freedom to build the receivers out, to drill the holes, to build the auto steers. You have the 308s. I mean, you can put MP5s together. You can do all that stuff. Milling machine is going to be important for doing a lot of that kind of stuff. It's one of those things that you have to understand how the parts work to do it right, because you don't want to destroy too much stuff trying to make it.
Charles says you should upload a video of Sass. Bloopers sounds like of them. I can't tell you. I think it was the book sales for the bundles. I did put bloopers at the end, because you can see, like, when Chris is great for stuff that he knows, but if there's a code for something to include or anything, like, he doesn't know. So it showed me feeding him like line for line, and people were saying that they could definitely tell I was, about to lose it. But it was funny. I had to include it. It was hilarious. And Carrie, get ready, because Carrie did send me his schedule for the NRA show, because we're going to meet up with him. We decided, because I haven't talked to Chris about this. We've just been working a lot. We're going to meet him before the NRA show.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll probably be like so tired after all the filming and stuff. But
yeah, she's gonna be busy that weekend, real busy.
Yeah, and then he tried to tell me that he wanted me to wear like Sass clothes. I was like,
I figured she'd wear a Sass shirt with me to identify her, as that's who we were at.
I said no.
Then I'll make him in Gucci.
I said no. You don't get to tell me what to wear. I'm behind the camera, and you'll know me by the one that has the camera. Difference on recoil springs for the SBR 5.56.
No, it's a standard recoil spring, a standard carbine recoil spring, and just depending on the barrel contour, a buffer. What buffer it is. It's so easy doing military M16s, because you have specific ammunition. So I know, in fact, if it's going to be shooting M855 ammunition, I put an H2 in a Selcom rifle with a Selcom barrel. I put a standard H in an M4 barrel. I know what to do. When you guys put all these different ammunition to it, you're messing around with gas ports. Now this gets a lot more complicated. and you have to go out, based off of your specific ammunition and your specific gun.
They're laughing at you, saying they don't make them in good shape. He's mean to me, guys. Do you hope HK makes a CCW again for the American market? I mean, so much market out there. Like, can't they see that?
I'd like to see them do more 416s that are more affordable. That's what I love to see them do. I'd love to see them do more MP5s that are more affordable. I'd love to see them do some more of their government guns, like the P8A1 and things like that. I just like to see the stuff affordable. I'd love to be able to get a barrel for my MR 5.56 that's a 16-inch government profile cold hammer forged barrel.
Thank you, Matt. He said, leave Heather's marketing strategies alone. I appreciate you. He says he has a CZ SP1 tactical years ago, or he had one years ago, but didn't like how unwielding he found it. Would I maybe have similar findings with an FNX 45 TAC?
FNX 45 Tactical is my favorite 45 in the market. It is a large gun. It's not a concealed carry gun. It's a duty style gun. It's designed to be suppressed. It's designed to have a laser aiming module on it. It's a 15-shot 45. It's a duty gun, so you can't expect it to be something you're going to be putting in a pocket holster. It's not going to happen.
Racer says I'll be identified by a glass of wine too. Funnily enough, I don't drink very much anymore, but in that NRA show, I may actually need copious amounts of wine to be able to keep up with it. That was one of the best filming nights ever. Was if you guys ever, because those videos didn't get a lot of views, but with Joe Mo from Atlas Defense, we have a whole series of videos with him because he came and stayed with us one night and with his dog and everything. And we ended up having fun. We were just supposed to film for like an hour and we ended up filming for like 5 hours. And I ended up sitting behind the camera drinking wine while we were filming, and it was hilarious. And they were behind all the lights and the gear and the setup. And Joe was, I remember Joe being impressed. He's like, man, you turned this into a film set like real quick. I was questioning it, but now this is like, but he was asking me to get stuff and all of this. And Chris was like, man, she never does this stuff for me. She won't give me anything.
There could be a tool sitting right next to her. Don't see it.
Don't see it. Don't know where it is. Well, he'll also say, hand me that gun. And I'm like, really? There's like 50 guns. Sean, thank you so much. Sean donated on Donor Box. He didn't have a question. Well, Sean doesn't need any more questions anymore. Sean used to have questions, and now he's like, he is my, my moderator inside of the chat. Carrie says, I'll be the camera person with a Coach bag. Carrie, there will be no Coach.
Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. What is the best source of M4A4 TDP specs for gauging?
M4A4?
Yes.
There is no M4A4.
Well, he says M4A4 right here.
Well, first off, anything that's TDP is going to be protected. Some of the gauges you can get through Brownells. Other gauges, if you go in the back of some of the U.S. military armors manuals, like the Marine Corps armors manuals, you'll see some of the gauges in there, ones that you would make in a machine shop. But most of the gauges, like the more erosion gauges and plug gauges and things like that, they come from the factories that are made for the military. And even at Colt, we didn't have a lot of the gauges that you would think because we made new guns, not old guns. And the government has they have tools, gauges they have to use to determine if something's still serviceable or not. So, I remember one time looking for one of our foreign customers, some of those gauges, and we didn't even have the plans for them. I had a hell of a time finding those.
Why do MP5 style guns on average cost more than G3 style guns?
That is one of the biggest held secrets. When you look at an MP5, which is just stamped, it's not they're not precision machined. There's not a lot of milling involved. It's rolled stamp and everything. I will never figure out why it costs that much money to make an MP5. I have no idea. Why? It's mind boggling, especially considering you don't have a lot of really cool features on it. It's not a lot of complicated machining processes and whatnot. That's always been a mystery to me.
I shot a Daniel Defense Mark 18 pistol suppressed and got lots of gas in my face. I want to build a Mark 18 variant out of my KAC SR15 11.5 inch. Any advice on making it happen?
The best thing you can do, getting gas in your face is that's just part of using a suppressor for the most part. The Mark 18s, the best thing that you can do for that is to get yourself a gas buster charging handle, a PRI gas buster charging handle. That's the best thing that you can do for that. And you'll see a lot of operators will be wearing goggles with suppressed guns. There's a reason for that, because when you get that blowback, it gets in your face. It makes your eyes, irritates your eyes. By having that mask on there, you won't have any problems with that. But unfortunately, that's just part of it. Especially with internal pistons, you get a little bit more than usual. But even with external pistons, you get all that that powder and everything, all that stuff's coming back through the chamber. And for instance, you look at a gun that's suppressed. I don't care if it's internal or external piston; it's going to be filthy because of all that back pressure.
I recently bought a rifle, and there's a little play in the upper and lower. I was wondering if you could share some knowledge on that. Will it get worse with use?
Well, first off, they're military spec. What military spec means is all parts will fit together. So basically, you have a tolerance. For instance, in this case, you have a tolerance on the lugs on the bottom of the upper receiver, a plus and minus, and then you go into the receiver, and in the grooves the slots where it fits into, you're gonna have a plus or minus. So if you are all pluses on one part and all minuses on the other, you're going to have some play that's in there, and that's normal. That's okay. Most of the guns coming out to the U.S. military, you do have a little bit of play in there. The military doesn't care as long as the guns meet the actual requirements. There will be some rattling. If that bothers you, there's an old gadget called the AccuWedge that fits right in the back of the receiver, in the pocket right behind the rear lug on the upper receiver. And it tightens everything right up. But real U.S. military guns, even when they're brand new, those parts got to be interchangeable. And if parts are interchangeable, you have to have some play in there. So if one's on the higher end of tolerances or one's on the lower end of tolerances, or both are on the higher end of the tolerances, they'll still fit together.
When the Marines put carbine stocks on the M16 lowers for shorter soldiers, did they use the car style or the later M4 style?
Well, the stocks, once the car style stock was outdated, or once it was done, they only used the newer ones. There was no time where they used both. I mean, once they were the military did have, of course, they had stocks of what they had for spare parts, and once all that stuff was used up, all you see is the stock that we use right now.
Do salt bath nitrided barrels lose accuracy compared to regular stainless steel barrels? I'm finding conflicting information about this online.
I had a conversation. I was doing some interviewing with Bob Faxon from Faxon Firearms, and he happens to be a real fan of the nitriding process. A lot of it has to do with the way that if it's done properly, it's similar to 416 barrel steel. Chrome is a different animal. Chrome makes that barrel about 3 to 4 times harder than it is without the chrome. So, the chrome will be better than all of them. But if you were to compare a 416 stainless steel barrel, say, with a nitrided barrel, you're probably going to have better, longer longevity out of the nitride. But you're going to have severely much more out of the chrome. But the problem is if the nitriding is not done properly, you can have softer in the middle, and the stuff will wear. It's just a matter of people who are doing it know how to do it.
FNX 45 tactical or an HK USP 45?
That's a hard one because those are my two favorite 45s. The one benefit that the FNX has over the USP 45 is optics ready. Once you take away the optics ready, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. That's one of the things with the FNX that I liked over the USP, was just because I liked using the RMR on that. If you're not planning on using an optic on it like that, the USP 45 Tactical is still top tier. The trigger probably on the USP Tactical might be just a little bit better, but that's really what it comes down to. Is if you want an optic on it, you got to go with the FNX. But also, when you compare the magazine capacity, you're looking at 13 rounds versus 15 out of the FNX. So you get more magazine capacity as well.
Well, guys, I think we're going to shut it down for tonight. I did mention last week, but we will not be having a Q&A next week, and potentially not having one the week after that as well. Chris will be going and spending some time with his family in New York. I will ask that before we close out, but he'll be spending some time in New York with his family. It's his first time being home since his father passed away last year. And unfortunately, because of COVID and New York's very, very strict rules,
Unless you're in a nursing home,
he was not able to be there. So this is his first time going back and spending a few days with his family. So Q&As will be suspended for the next couple of weeks. But we still are available to do emailed responses. We do ask that you make a donation to the channel. I know some people don't like that, but this is why we do Q&A. So, it's not just paid questions that are getting, asked and answered, but that is our business. This is how we pay our bills and how we function and keep going and all of that. But we will be available for emailed responses if anybody has any issues that come up during that time. And you'll have regular content that will be going up as well. Like I said, get ready for some longer videos because that seems to be what we've been filming. Great to hear about the longevity, but could you ask Chris if he can speak on the accuracy?
The accuracy shouldn't be much any different because it's a treatment that goes onto the barrel. It's not a plating. Chrome is a plating. That's why you see some of the decreased accuracy with chrome with the plating. Nitriding is not. So again, if it's heat treated properly, you can probably be just as good as a 416, maybe even a little bit better, maybe a little bit longer. It all comes down to how it's doing. You should the nitriding should make it harder than standard stainless steel, but it won't make it harder than chrome.
Someone said you should do a live Q&A behind enemy lines. Well, I won't be there, so I
have nothing to show you. I can show you, oh, this is a revolver. This is a lever action rifle.
You can have 5 bullets in your gun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you guys very much.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Take care.